Don't tell us that.
Oh, it's Jack at this point.
Just a little bit back.
Honey.
I can make it order, but I love people. Yay. Yeah.
Your whole picture was. And Faraz's presentation wasn't to me, but I don't know if this case will essentially for that somehow. It's hard to solution. It's the accessibility part.
Only two left.
Yes.
So it's just
Just you're probably trying to state that it's an emergency or convince people that it's an emergency because that always is the case. And this is like a career presentation that has had to be better. Which tends to make people mad. And then it comes us today.
but
Really?
yeah, and you know,
We should fight sometime. I'm gonna lose. We should still fight. I'm not inciting violence. It's a sparring match.
That's still inciting violence. What?
Hi, y'all. So many of us here tonight. I'm calling to order the 10th session of the Paducah Senate. All who are willing and able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible. You may be seated. Colorado State University acknowledges with respect that the land we are on is traditional ancestral home homelands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute nations and peoples. This was also a site of trade, gathering, and healing for numerous other native tribes. We recognize the indigenous people as original stewards of this land and all the relatives within it. As these words of acknowledgement are spoken and heard, the ties nations have to their traditional homelands are renewed and reaffirmed. CSU is founded as a land-grant institution, and we accept that our mission must encompass access to education and inclusion. And significantly, that our founding came at a dire cost to Native nations and peoples whose land this university was built upon. This acknowledgement is the education and inclusion we must practice in recognizing our institutional history, responsibility, and commitment. Now we'll be doing swearing in of senators or associates. Is there any senators or associates who are swearing in today? Come on up. The Chief Justice, also to the front.
I state your name,
I, Evan Turner,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to defend and uphold
to defend and uphold
the rules and regulations
the rules and regulations
set forth by the Constitution
set forth by the Constitution
of the Associated Students of Colorado State University
of the Associated Students of Colorado State University
and will rightfully perform
and will rightfully perform
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have the clerk call the roll. Alrighty, Senator Bakari,
Present.
Chair Kelly,
Here.
Senator Van Tassel, Senator Barrett, Associate Senator Lutz, Senator Cole Johnson,
Present.
Senator Winston,
Present.
Senator Thabid, Senator Easy, Senator Wilson,
Here.
Chair Osborne, here, Senator Perk,
Here.
Chairman Onti,
Present.
Senator Hill, Senator Melfire,
Here.
Senator Schumer,
Present on Zoom.
Senator Chacon, present, Senator Snyder, Chair Taylor,
Here.
Senator McAllister Johnson, here, Chair Trout,
Present.
Senator Davis, here, Chair Frisky, here, Senator Levy, here, Senator Reese, Associate Senator Rivera, Associate Senator Salazar, here, Senator Barron, present, Associate Senator Camber, Senator
Present on Zoom.
Present.
Associate Senator Alvarez, here, Senator Pickerel, Associate Senator Yankowski, Senator Buckner, Senator Lancey,
Here.
Associate Senator Ozor, Associate Senator Leggett, Associate Senator Miller, Associate Senator Myers,
Here.
Associate Senator Burr, Senator Huizenga, here, Senator Brown,
Here.
Senator Desmarais,
Here.
and Senator Vaughn.
Here.
If you did not hear your name, please let the clerk know after or at some point. Moving on to consent agenda. Is there any dissent to the current agenda? Vice President Silverheart?
You can come up. Did you want a handheld or do you?
I can, it's real quick.
Just-
Never mind. I was just confirming SFRB ratifications were on, but it's probably the first thing on the consent agenda. Perfect, thank you.
Seeing none, we'll move on to gallery input. Is there anyone from the gallery who wishes to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll move into our guest speaker, which is cultural significance presentation. Can I have those presenters please come to the front?
Hello all, my name is Faraz Bukhari. I'm a senator for APAC.
I'm Abdu, also a senator for APAC.
We're here to discuss harm that was done in the community and present a presentation on cultural appropriation versus appreciation. I ask that you refrain from any questions during some of our speakers speak, and then we'll be facilitating dialogue and like a pseudo training, but just an open space to deliberate and talk about kind of a difficult topic in our current time and age. So I ask for your respect and your patience, and let's get started.
Hello, members of ASCSU. My name is Tati, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers.
My name is Leg. I use they, them pronouns.
We are here to talk about an incident that happened at the CSU Mountain campus. As some of you may know or have heard, there was an incident regarding some members of ASCSU in one of the STPS offices. The office was the Asian Pacific American Culture Center, also known as APAC, where Lei and I are currently student staff, but at the same time, at the CSU Mountain incident, we were undergoing training for our positions. At the same time, some members of the ASCSU were also at the Mountain campus for a retreat that involved themed days. One of those themes, however, have left a very traumatic and emotional impact on Leigh and myself. The theme in question was Tacky Tourist Day, where many of the members showed up to the dining facility wearing Hawaiian shirts and plastic paper leis. Some may be wondering, it's just a shirt and it's just a plastic paper lei. So what's the harm in that? Well, the harm in doing that is those actions further perpetuate toxic tourism culture that impacts Hawaii and still impacts Hawaii to this day, especially during a time of great devastation. Because around the time of this training and the ASCSU retreat, the Lahaina wildfires on Maui, my home island, were happening. It is historically one of the greatest disasters to ever happen to my home. The fires destroyed the entirety of Lahaina town. One of the biggest reasons why the theme Tacky Tourist was so insulting is because many of our people lost their livelihoods. Many of our people lost their lives. To escape the fires, people even had to resort to jumping into the ocean, where they had to tread for hours. They had to tread for their lives, and some of those lives were lost. And even then, the very next day, tourists would still snorkel, dive, and have fun on their island paradise vacations, while blatantly disregarding the pain, hurt, and the sorrows of the people of Maui. At the Mountain campus, it was revealed that certain individuals knew of the wildfires, but still decided Tacky Tourist would be the best theme to go with. This cultural insensitivity is never acceptable, especially from those we elected to be in leadership roles to represent us. Every one of you here has power and influence. You may not think so, but you do. Every one of you here has the ability to make big decisions for the student body. So you all should be leading by example. Many students on this campus do look up to you, and they see you as role models. So when these students see you all in higher positions and roles partaking in cultural appropriation and cultural insensitivity, they use that and your roles as an excuse to partake in it as well. That further emphasizes why we are here talking to you all this evening. It is critically important that people are held accountable and that you all work better, or you all work to do better. And the reason why I did not say we all should work to do better is because we, the impacted party, have done everything we can to improve the situation. We, the impacted party, are tired. We're straight up tired of coming up with solutions for you, for all of you to have a peace of mind, because where is ours? We didn't have that because we continuously were asked to find solutions for all of you. As I said, you all are in leadership roles and you're responsible for representing all of the CSU student body, meaning that each ethnicity, each identity, and every group on this campus should be represented equally as well as respected equally.
We stand in front of you as Kanaka Maoli, Native Hawaiians. And we want to emphasize to you all that we are here talking about how this experience impacted us. We are not speaking on behalf of all the Hawaiians on this campus because everyone's experiences are different. This is ours. So no matter who you are or what you know about the Hawaiian culture does not excuse the amount of emotional hardships we went through after the entire event. I have never rethought about my time at CSU and even considered leaving and dropping out because of this. I had trust and respect for the members of ASCSU, but after the event that rolled out, it only showed me that my respect for you all is one-sided. And well, two can play at that game. Because once you lose my trust, there's no getting that back. There's nothing that can be done now because it is 2 months after the event happened. So to me, this is done and shall not be brought up anymore. And if anyone comes to me with any issues, I will gladly direct you to the pro staff of APAC. The amount of emotional baggage that I have held within my heart is not worth words because every discussion that I have had on this topic feels more like a rehash of emotions rather than actual things being done in terms of apologies, which is next to impossible from anyone without it feeling extremely forced and just a segment of saying it just to say it. Again, we are here to tell our story in hopes that you all know that words and actions have a great impact on those around you. Whether those actions are big or small, the potential impact that could be placed on others could cause a lot of damage to the affected party. Mahalo, thank you for your time.
Well, now we'll segue into our presentation. I understand for accessibility reasons, we did not submit this 48 hours in advance. We were still working out the specifics, but in compliance with ADA, we'll read everything in full and make sure everything is addressed. So this presentation is derived from one of our, honestly, it's one of my favorite events that we throw at APAC. It's called Try to Understand. The premise of Try to Understand is we facilitate a space through a presentation, and there's a dialogue and discussion after the presentation. This one will be done a little differently, where we'll kind of cut through the presentation bit to ask for your input and feedback. So learning happens on both sides, and we can tailor what we say to what the space says as well. So let's begin. Let's talk and try to understand about My Culture Is Not Your Costume. This was made by Tati and Andrew, two great facilitators in our space. at APAC Pro Staff. This was a collaboration with Real Talk, another campus entity, but they're not here. It's just Abduna. So I'm just going to open the floor up. Let's discuss, what does cultural appropriation look like to you?
Wearing a piece of an article of clothing that typically is culturally significant to a group of people.
Thank you. Anyone else? Basically making fun of someone's culture without permission or empathy, I guess, right? Okay. Anyone else would like to comment? We'll get back to this question because there's a lot we have to talk about. Next slide.
So for this slide, we're discussing what cultural appropriation is. According to the Britannica, cultural appropriation is when members of a majority group adopt cultural elements of a minority group in an exploitative, disrespectful, or stereotypical way.
And next up, we have a short video. There are captions, closed captions on what. Let's start off with some history, right? So cultural appropriation goes way back. Minstrel shows of the 19th century. Shows were formed mostly by white actors. These actors would wear blackface makeup to purposely portray racial stereotypes of African Americans. Jim Crow was a minstrel character created in 1830. The birthplace of African American stereotypes and insinuate racial prejudice and violence. This can lead to cultural erasure and cultural exploitation. For example, hula is a big part of Native Hawaiian culture. In 1830, it was thought to be a pagan ritual and was then banned by missionaries in attempts to erase the native culture and convert indigenous people to Christianity. When hula was brought back, it was still not treated with respect, and this led to fetishization of people that would occur at tourist luau's, and Hawaiian people and culture were still exploited and are still exploited today by the tourist industry.
So the impacts of cultural appropriation, cultural erasure and exploitation of Native peoples further emphasizes damaging stereotypes of marginalized communities and many cultures, spreads misinformation about certain parts of the culture. When celebrities or influencers participate in cultural appropriation, it continues the cycle of damaging messages and misuse of the cultures they are appropriating. In a way, promotes appropriation since they influence large audiences. Parts of a culture are whitewashed and miscredited to the influence and not to their respective cultures of origin.
So again, I'd like to open the floor up to any feedback or questions you have so far. I know we touched upon a lot. Anyone want to comment, have any questions on what we discussed so far? In that case, I'd like to guide us through a discussion, right? October 25th, this day was not chosen for any reason, right? Halloween is coming up. So I'd ask y'all to think back and look at what your costumes have been and what they will be. And is that appropriating culture? Is that appreciating culture? Would anyone like to comment on that?
So I said for me, cultural appreciation looks like when people visit mosques and religious places in Dubai, they tend to wear the clothing that is usually worn by people from that region just to respect where they are. And I've seen women wear the hijab or just, I'm not sure what's called, the kubbaya for men on their heads or just babayas. So I use that as a way to appreciate a culture, just about your surroundings.
Thank you, thank you. Anyone else like to comment? No?
I know I've seen a lot on like TikTok and whatnot of folks appropriating different hairstyles from different cultures and saying, oh, look how trendy this is, not acknowledging the history of that hairstyle or the significance of that hairstyle. And that's something that a lot of folks on TikTok criticize on, but even, you know, those outfits or a lot of outfits and costumes. That seems to be very almost normalized in a lot of communities within like TikTok and just social media as a whole. And a lot of influencers do it and then apologize for it, quote unquote, but then not really do anything with that apology, just like, sorry, I messed up, even though they should have known that information beforehand. So even, you know, just taking it like even just outside of Halloween, which is so historically known for cultural appropriation, it's seen for a lot of folks really like everywhere, not just on Halloween.
Right. That leads back to fetishization of cultures and communities, right? It's one thing to engage in artistic creativity, but when that comes to the detriment of a culture or a tradition, that's kind of messed up in many ways.
Someone on Zoom wants to speak.
I think that if you are, first of all, can you hear me? Okay. I think that if you are like not sure, if you're sitting here wondering, hey, can I honor this culture in a way, and you don't know, if you don't know if you're appropriating or appreciating, probably you want to err on the side of caution. Because if you don't know, then that just shows that maybe you have a blind spot to whether you can execute, you know, an appreciation properly. And, you know, think about that. Even if you don't mean to cause harm, it's all about impact versus intent. And so if you don't know, then probably just don't.
Thank you so much for that.
There's some more people on Zoom.
Oh, there's some more people.
Hello. Can you hear me? Sweet. So I would say with cultural appreciation, I would say appropriation or appreciation would be something that, you know, is appreciated and, you know, celebrated outside of a time that would be convenient for someone. So like if it's Halloween, you know, that's like a very convenient time for someone to do cultural appropriation, or with like maybe Cinco de Mayo is like a time where like people like, you know, celebrate and like dress up in like sombreros and like mustaches. You know, that's something that's like very like stereotypical and like harmful, and that's something that's very convenient for people to do. But you know, you know, sometimes it's harmful to do things like that whenever something is convenient for someone. And you know, something like I like to kind of explain to people is like, you know, cultural appreciation for me kind of looks like whenever like a lot of my friends from outside of an indigenous community from my own, you know, will celebrate and like, you know, purchase like indigenous jewelry, you know, going to powwows and like, you know, celebrating with us. You know, that's time for celebration for us. And that's the time for like us to be together and celebrate our own heritage and celebrate, you know, the things that we do. And so whenever someone will like, you know, celebrate with us by eating the food with us, you know, purchasing jewelry, supporting businesses, you know, that's something that's very appreciative. And that's something that's really beautiful to me. And that's something that I like to share with people, that that's what cultural appreciation looks like to me.
Thank you, Officer Ritter. And basically to sum up those points, those are two great speakers. Thank you for your input.
Going back to your first question of like, how like you can't like word it properly. I don't remember the proper wording you used, but it was along the lines of like, how do you think people can kind of like, have you ever like culturally appropriated in the past, like issues with that and whatnot? And I think like a huge issue that comes up with that is a lot of people like don't know whether or not they can dress up as a certain character. I think characters a lot of the time, like it becomes like a really iffy and hard like line. And I think there's always a lot of confusion about it. Especially characters where like their race or ethnicity has nothing to do with their character. but it still plays a vital role in the fact that that is that character. Like my little sister, she's fully Brazilian and she has a little afro and she wanted to dress up as Princess Diana. And so that was really complicated for us to like figure out as a family whether or not we wanted her to do that or not, and like if there would be any issues or repercussions with that. And I think that's just like an important thing to like acknowledge that like, yeah, it can be difficult at times.
Thank you.
I think also one thing I've noticed with like cultural appreciation is it has to be in collaboration with the minority indigenous group, whoever it is, instead of just something on your own. Of course, I think research is always important, but I think it's even more important to talk to people and have that knowledge and appreciation happen one-on-one, and like that helps mitigate some bad decisions, I feel like.
Right, like culture is not individual, it's community. And oftentimes we don't see how our image can impact others because we don't see ourselves. So it's important to take the intention to work on the impact as well. And everyone's going to make mistakes. That's normal. But what we do after to remediate what happened and the harm that was done, that's also very important too. And that can strengthen bonds rather than break them. We'll segue into defining the content. So culture appreciation, when elements of a group's culture are used while still honoring the group that it came from. An example of that is learning about the culture without adopting it as your own. So appreciating the culture in its country of origin, wearing a kimono in Japan would be a great example of that. Whereas there's also cultural exchange, the mutual sharing of cultural practices in order to develop a better understanding for friendship. Examples that would be interracial weddings, where both of the individual's cultures are incorporated, or international sports events, where the countries would either exchange gifts or ceremonial acts to respect each other's cultures. So next up, this video is coming from a women's rugby match. They typically do ceremonial dances and national anthems before the match as an example of cultural exchange. That was just a short example. Of course, there's much education you can do on your own, but I'd like to conclude that Abdu and I here, we're not educators on DEI or DIJ, social justice, right? We're dissenters that represent our community and the harm that was done. And when teaching about cultural appropriation, right, it challenges us to confront painful history of marginalized groups and communities and power imbalances that have existed throughout millennia. This subject is not merely an abstract concept, but it's deeply personal, especially to members of our community, affecting real people and causing real issues. To address cultural appropriation effectively, we must navigate the fine line between appreciation and appropriation with empathy, logic, and respect. When you look at the emotional side, it's pretty profound. Cultural appropriation can cause real harm. It perpetuates stereotypes, disrespects sacred symbols, and marginalizes cultures. When we understand that, we realize the importance of empathy. It's about putting ourselves in the shoes of someone who has faced cultural disrespect and injustice for centuries. It's about acknowledging that our actions matter, especially in positions of power. From a logical standpoint, cultural appropriation is not always clear cut. There's not just one way of doing it. It can be done in many different ways and perceived differently depending on who's doing it, where it's from. I know that can be kind of vague, but it forces us to re-educate ourselves about our intention versus our impact. And this ambiguity can lead to debates and disagreements. But it's essential to remember that clarity isn't always the goal. The goal is to foster respect and understanding, and this requires open dialogue, such as the presentation we had today. In our community, we cannot ignore the harm that has been done. We must address it head on, acknowledge it, and commit to doing better as a whole. This is not about stifling creativity or diversity, but about appreciating culture with respect, and recognizing that we can live in a diverse world where every culture deserves honor and protection. Think of the principles of community here at CSU, right? You inhibit those roles being a representative of the communities you serve. When we teach about cultural appropriation, we're not just conveying facts, we're shaping a more inclusive and compassionate society where harm is replaced with understanding, empathy, and unity. So I do implore y'all to come visit SDPS offices, come to our events, be in community with us. It's one thing to say we love a diverse campus, but be there, show your face, be in community, be a friend. Because friendship goes a long way, and that leads to more education, relationships. Events like this can kind of tarnish reputation. I know that's a big thing for this organization, but oftentimes your actions matter in and out of the space, aside from the events you throw. So we appreciate y'all giving us the time and space. And if there's any other questions about this event or whatnot, Abdu and I are open, and our pro staff from APAC is as well. We'll be here after Senate for questions as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Eva had to step out for kidnapping, so I will be taking over. So we'll move into executive reports. Is there anyone from executive who'd like to report?
Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Overhurt. I use the he series of pronouns, and I am the vice president of ASCSU. And part of being the vice president of ASCSU means I am and should be involved in most of the decisions and a lot of the events that are planned here. I would first like to say thank you to the APAC senators and the members of APAC that showed up tonight and provided this really beneficial education. It's given me a lot to think about, and this entire situation has given me a lot to think about in terms of my own personal ignorance and the lack of follow-up that was not done in this instance. So I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry to the members of APAC. I'm sorry to all of you. I'm sorry to the entire campus. It was a terrible oversight, and I'm sorry. I'd also like to talk about a few other things. I've been in a lot of conversations with the Director of Diversity and Inclusion, Letty Madrigal. We are creating a space known as the ASCSU Culture Review, where we talk about the culture of ASCSU. And this event is something that actually kind of motivated the creation of this culture review board. And I know a few of you were able to come today. Thank you, Alexander. Thank you, Claudia, for attending. I think that can be a space where a lot of difficult conversations can be had, not only for the sake of ASCSU and our reputation, but for the sake of the entire student body and how we show up and how we can follow through if things like this happen again. Because people make mistakes. But as mentioned multiple times before, an apology isn't enough. There needs to be more follow through. I also told Letty that I would promote First Generation Day, which is on November 8th. The sign up for this is within the newsletter. There's the weekly sign up genius for all of the tabling events and such. We're also doing mental health tabling tomorrow. Thank you, Georgia, for organizing that. And Kevin, Active Minds will be out there providing some mental health resources, which I think will be fantastic. So thank you so much for your time.
Hey everyone, I'm Michael. I just wanted to give an update on Community Roundtable. This was kind of the big event that we were throwing this semester in state and local policy. It was a pretty big success. It was a big team effort through all of the cabinet. We had 24 elected officials up in the Never Know Summer Ball Room for 2 hours to talk to students. We had about 100 students show up. I think it was a really impactful event to get students in front of lawmakers from every level of government in Colorado. I'm just making those connections and starting those conversations. So just wanted to give an update on that and just wanted to extend the invitation on any events you want to host with elected officials or anything to do with governmental affairs. Our door is always open and we're always looking for ways to collaborate. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from executive who would like to report? Seeing none, we'll move into judicial. Is there anyone from judicial who would like to report?
Hi everyone, my name is Morgan Wright. I'm Associate Justice. I use the she series of pronouns. And I wanted to take the time to talk to everyone here about an exciting project that Georgia White and I are doing, the Director of Health, something called Roommate Revival. And basically, this is an event where we have food, activities, games, and get to know potential roommates. And as people are in the season of finding where to live, who to live with, making sure that who you're living with is effective in coexisting. Kind of the thing that I've got here is sometimes your bestie isn't the best roommate. Sometimes you can love a person to death and living with them is really hard. And unfortunately, a lot of people find that out after signing a lease. And so this is an event that we want to host from 5:30 to 7 on November 30th with a panel of people who are probably upperclassmen who have lived with people who that's been difficult or that's been successful. And I wanted to ask all of you if you're interested in sitting on that panel just for one night. I want to get a diverse group of people from backgrounds and experiences that could contribute to the discussion of what it's like living with a roommate. We're really trying to target this to people who are in the dorms and moving into a new environment that is much different than the dorms where, you know, you've got to find your own food and pay the rent and keep things clean. And it can be just a big transition. And this is kind of a thing by students for students. I'm in partnership with Off-Campus Life right now. So if any of you are interested, please feel free to email me, or my office hours are Monday 10 to 11:30 a.m. and then Thursday from 1 to 2:30 or 3. I'm here for a while. So please feel free to drop by, send me an email, or we can schedule an appointment outside of that office hour if you have any more questions. So thank you for your time.
No, so Senator Wilson gracefully and thankfully provided
Short and sweet and very informative, ADA regulation presentation, just because we've gotten a lot of concerns recently that ADA regulations haven't really been being followed to the extent that they should be. So I figured we could just go through this real quick and just do a quick little chat about it. Anyone from the SEC, if you want to hop in at any time, you're welcome to. What's up? Complicated process. Sorry. Great, thank you, Parker. Okay, so accessibility guidelines, and something I think is kind of been like a theme, obviously tonight is like just kind of overlooking things and not paying attention to things that really should be paying attention to. And when it comes to ADA regulations, Alexander has made it very clear recently that not only are they federally required through the entire nation, but they're also codified in our own ASCSU constitution. So something we really need to be paying attention to. So yeah, what is the ADA? The Americans with Disabilities Act. It is a federally enacted thing, protects disabled people from discrimination, ensures places and events are accessible, and protects established accommodations. What are the accessibility guidelines? We kind of know them, right? Been practiced a lot. Everything needs to be shared 48 hours in advance to any meetings, to any open meetings. And if the document is emergent and cannot be sent out 48 hours in advance, and big emphasis on emergent documents, it shouldn't just be somebody forgot, right? It should be like this was an emergency, it needed to be shared. That's the only exception to this. All speakers must use microphones in all open meetings, and the Zoom must be on utilizing captions in full. Next, why are these federally protected? Great explanation on there, but obviously they're federally protected because we should strive to be inclusive and make sure that everybody has rights and the rights to access everything. Like if we all can be here, everybody should be here. So, but yeah, also because, you know, we've agreed upon them, we put them in our constitution, and yeah, apparently Alexander, any dissent to these guidelines should be brought before the Student Disability Center, and you'll have to watch it. That's cool.
One thing I did want to add is that this goes for all official meetings, committees, caucuses. Your college is having a meeting and everyone, and if there's more than 2 ASCSU representatives in that meeting and you are discussing ASCSU things, this needs to be followed as well. And it is up to the people in that small meeting to follow it. There won't be any backlash if you don't. But it's also very important that these are being followed in committees and caucuses. I know a lot of people have issues going to committees and caucuses because these aren't being followed and they don't feel accommodated for. But yeah.
Okay, if you need more accommodations, obviously you can go to the SDC and make sure that you can get the rights that you are entitled to. And like if it's like, you know, like we're in the middle of a meeting, something SEC senators have done a lot is calling for, is it point of personal privilege?
Actually, point of order because it's in our constitution.
Point of order, to make an adjustment for being accommodated during the meeting. And everybody can and should advocate for accessibility. So anything else you guys want?
Just to add a couple of things, you can either do a point of order because it's at that point parliamentary procedure on that. You can also do a point of personal privilege, as that is specifically for accommodations in space for individuals or groups. I'll also add that not only are there federal regulations that we have to uphold, but also state laws that indicate that. I know recently there's an update to Colorado, basically the Colorado version of the ADA, which I know CSU is going through those policies right now. We also mentioned earlier that, I'm going to mention this about my tenure as SDC senator, that if you have issues with the accommodations that we have, go to the SDC, as that is their job to handle those accommodations and for you to have those conversations with. That is not for anybody else here to decide on that. That is not within our job descriptions to decide what accommodations are real accommodations or fake accommodations, and which ones we think or which ones we can't. That is not our job. We do not have that jurisdiction. Even as SDC senators, we don't have the jurisdiction to say, yeah, that's an accommodation, but this one is. That's not our job. Our job is to represent disabled students. But also, if you have issues with that or want additions to those accommodations, you have to reach out to the SDC, as they are the office that provides those accommodations. Do you have anything more to add? Okay, yeah.
Great, thank you so much. With that in mind, I also kind of just wanted to talk about the importance of this and other things is, we are student government, and just like the APAC representatives that came into here today, they were talking about like how their trust in us was broken. Like that is awful. That is so bad. And I think part of that, like, we really need to embody that, because how dare we say we are a student government if we're not inclusive and equitable to everybody? Everybody. And while that's important, I also just want to throw my little shoe of professionalism and grace and empathy, because we should all be passionate about fighting against discrimination and fighting for every single person's rights. But I do firmly believe we can do that respectfully and watching the harms that we might cause to other people. But thank you for your time. And if anybody has any questions or anybody feels like something is not constitutionally being upheld, the court is here. We are here for all of you. We are here to support you. So please don't hesitate to come and chat with us. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move into legislative reports now. Are there any officers who would like to report?
So hello, everyone. I am parliamentarian. I have recently started updating the ASCSU archives website. So any committees or caucuses that have any sort of minutes or bylaws or any sort of documentation that you would like uploaded to that website, please send that to me so I can get that uploaded. That is all.
Just one reminder, if you didn't attend the ER training, please go to one SCPS event and then just send Ava and I a reflection about which event you went to and what you did. Officer Ritter, do you have anything to say?
She's no longer.
Okay, so we'll move on to committee abstracts. Are there any committees for the chair?
I just want to give a quick shout out to the folks who were able to participate in the accessibility caucus review of Campus Stadium. That took us just about an hour, give or take. Massive shout out to y'all for that, and for folks who've just been active in the caucus as a whole. Next week, we're going to be continuing this process. We're going to be going to buildings so we decide our group ventures. And it's convenient that we're doing it now, right before it starts getting really cold, because nobody wants to be outside in like 2 weeks. The next building we are going to be going over, we'll either be doing, we'll be doing the CSU Health Center since I was second on our poll. But also if folks are like, no, we want to have a meeting for XYZ, please let me know. As I'm the person that makes the agenda and I would like to know that information before Friday afternoon, as that's typically when I send out the agenda to the front desk. And once it's been sent to the front desk, I'm not changing squat on anything. So let me know if you have any questions on that. But that's all I have.
Are there any other committees? Chair Taylor?
This week we saw the changing women's caucus bill and we made no edits to that. We also had the highest committee attendance I think that I've seen, and so I'd love to see that. So please come back and keep coming to committees. I yield.
Would any other chairs like to speak for this? Okay, Chairman Auntie.
We also saw the changing of women's caucus bill, and the literal only changes we added were endorsements. So, yeah.
Awesome. So we'll move on to Senator and Associate reports. So Chair Trout first, but keep the placards up so I can.
Hey all again. I want to take a quick second or take a quick minute and thank folks who came in tonight for guest presentations. Speaking in a space, especially a space that has caused harm, is really scary, intimidating, and emotionally taxing. And it's not something that folks just actively want to do. So I want to thank you for your voice and for calling us out. I also want to thank the APAC delegation and staff as a whole for taking the time to give us a thorough and timely training, especially since Halloween is coming up this next weekend. Continuing on, as you may know, Ramride has experienced some complications with operating consistently. I'm the new community outreach coordinator with that position, so if you are a student org that wants to get involved with the next semester, if you plan to bring back next semester, please let me know. But as a result of these complications, we are exploring different ways to move forward in order to ensure Ramride continues to be CSU's reliable safe ride program. To help our team decide on how to move forward, we would appreciate y'all's input. So I'll be sending out a survey to gather feedback for the future of Ramride. The survey will be open between now and November 17th at 5 p.m. Since Ramride is a student fee funded program, your feedback is super important to Ramride as a whole, because it helps us understand what you believe would be the most efficient use of your student funds. I'll send that survey out in the Slack channel, and I'll also send it to the front desk for it to be sent out next week so our constituents can do that as well. Please let me know if you have any questions regarding that. And then last thing, if you're hosting a party or an event this weekend, please register your event with Off Campus Life no later than 5 p.m. tomorrow. The really cool benefit about registering your party is if you get a noise-related complaint, instead of having cops showing up, you get a 20-minute grace period between calls, which we have shown to be to reduce college citations or college party citations by 98%. And I cannot stress this enough, y'all. Noise citations are exceeding $1,000. Who has $1,000 lying around for a noise citation? Not me. So please, please, please register if you get the chance. You do a quick spiel and then you sign a form, and that's basically it. So if you have any questions regarding anything at OCL and Ramride, let me know. Thank you for your time.
Next week's Senator Wilson.
Hey guys, so I just wanted to add on what like Judicial said about accessibility and referring that everyone can do this. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it's mainly been the SDC this year. I actually don't think that anyone else has made a point of order, point of personal privilege, really. Mads has. I will give Mads the credit she deserves for that. And a huge issue with that is like personally, I get really, really frustrated. I do a lot of work behind the scenes. I talk to a lot of people trying to make sure that we avoid these situations before they even occur, and they still occur. And it becomes super frustrating and draining. And I apologize that my tone at times seems very frustrated. And it is. I can tell you from experience that a great example is DEI training. I spoke to the presenters as well as our parliamentarian a few times before the training and was denied the accessibility guidelines. And that is really, really frustrating and unconstitutional. And personally, I just don't want to be the one everyone hates because I do it all the time. So it would be great if like other people did it. If you have questions, please ask the court, ask us, ask speakers. We can all help out. But please make an effort. So I yield.
Part of this is on behalf of Olivia because she had to go home. She's feeling sick for the Women's Caucus. But please come to caucus. It's going really well. We have a ton of things in motion. We have the Social Justice Library. And then we also have a couple of bills that are coming through. So we have a lot of things going and we would love to see all of your beautiful faces because it would make it a lot better. Hearing multiple voices is always better than just like one or two. So please come to caucus. They meet Mondays from 5:30 to 6:30. The group me for the said caucus is up and working and it'll be emailed through the Slack later tonight, either by me or Olivia. And then for the WJC tomorrow, the Red Whistle Brigade is putting on Barbie trivia in the Ranskeller, which is downstairs, here in the LSC downstairs. So come do trivia, learn about Barbie, learn about consent. It'll be a really great time. I yield.
I just want to take a moment to share a great education resource. So back in 2021, the Student Disability Center created a podcast called Disability Dialogues. It's one season, 7 episodes. Very accessible, and I'll be sharing the link to that in Slack. I yield.
I forgot the myself on the list. Good morning. Don't laugh at me. I know I say it a lot. And I know it's not the morning, it's just so ingrained into me over years of doing, being alive, I guess. I wanted to say hey. I wanted to say thank you for coming to events hosted by the PRC this month. We really appreciate it. People showing up and supporting. It's very important to us that pride is something that's honored, and the queer history and experience that we've had is something that other people are also getting to experience and understand. It's extremely important to us that we keep coming to events, especially with how our world is shifting and changing these days. So yeah, I want to say thanks for the events that you guys have already come to. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for being there. I wanted to say that events are not over. We still got a couple left in October, and then we got events after this. We have too many events. I think. Well, no, we don't. It's always great to be out and doing things. We don't have too many events. We have just enough events. Maybe we need even more events. I don't know. But yeah, on the 27th, we have Queer Coffee. It's a LGBTQI employee network. So if you're an employee for the school, faculty, staff, all of the like, it's free to come together. Harmony gets to talk, to speak. That's from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. We also, on the 31st, Halloween day, have a coming out and being out support group. That is going to be from 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. So if you can, and if you're able to come to some of those events, we really appreciate it. I also want to mention, I don't know if we have any NAC senders here today, but Native American History Month is in November, so they're also going to have a lot of really cool events. So if you have the time and the space and the spoons, we'd absolutely love for you to come to our events, as well as I know that NAC is planning some really amazing events for this next upcoming month. They just had a powwow, which is really great. I know a lot of people really enjoyed that. So if you have the time, go check out their website and go to their events. They're really good and you should support them. Yay, thank you. I give the rest of my time.
So yeah, no, the 31st of October, we're going to be, BAC is going to be hosting its karaoke night. So I recommend and definitely encourage all of you to go. I know I went last year and I had so much fun. If there's a video of me dancing in there, if you want to see it, just talk to me later after that. But yeah, no, that's an event, that upcoming BAC event that's going to be happening this month. So yeah, you can come dressed as costume, come not dressed as costume, your choice.
Associate Camber.
Hi, y'all. I just wanted to announce that AALBS is hosting the Veterans Week coming up November 4th through November 11th. One of the big events, you do have to RSVP by Friday. It is the AALBS Military and Veteran Appreciation Ball. It's also known as Adult Prom. You don't have to be affiliated with the military to participate. You do have to RSVP. That'll be in the Laurie Student Center from 7 to 11 p.m. Saturday the 4th. And there will be a dinner and a cash bar available. And it should be a really amazing event. And that just sort of kicks off the entire Veterans Week. I will put the link to all of the events for Veterans Week in the Slack so that you can RSVP and go. I'm going to try to convince my husband to put on a suit so I can later take it off of him and have a date night. So please, y'all, RSVP and come check it out.
Thank you. Senator Huizenga.
For anyone who did not go to the community roundtable, it was amazing. I highly recommend going if you have anything like that. Also, I spoke to Jenny, the mayor of Fort Collins, and we spoke about U+2. So if anyone is interested in that, I'm going to be working on voter registration initiatives. So get in contact with me if you're interested. Thank you. I yield.
Senator Levy.
Howdy, howdy. I'm Megan Levy, Senator for Warner College Natural Resources. So easy to pronounce. Want to shout out two things. First off, if you're interested in a networking mixer, we have a silly little networking mixer coming up. That'll be next semester, but we're working on it. It's going to be a pretty big event for Warner. Follow Warner College Council on Instagram to get more info. Additionally, if you want to celebrate the spooky season, we have two drag shows. One on Friday, one on Saturday. I will be hosting one on Friday. The one on Saturday is a little more raunchier. If you're interested in that, it is not 18 minus. It's not for people under 18. But yeah, it's at Bob Blue Theater in Old Town. Go ahead, check out our Instagram, CSU Drag House of Ovis, to get your tickets, as well as learn some more information. But yeah, I yield. Associate Prefect.
Hello, I just want to invite everyone for Centro. We are having our Dia de Muertos 3-day celebration, which is on October 31st to the November 2nd. And the 31st, we'll be doing Cempasúchil flowers and history and paper crafting. We'll also be doing on November 1st, decorating sugar skulls with the Lambda Theta News Award Incorporated. And November 2nd, we will be doing the other Muertos celebration from 2 to 5 p.m. in Central. We're also accepting submissions of pictures from the altar, and we're also accepting, or like, if you guys can volunteer to help with the other methods, and it's really appreciated. Thank you. I give my time.
Audio again, Faraz Bukhari, Senator from APAC, here with the booth. We have some upcoming events for APAC. First off, every Wednesday, we have a Try to Understand. Today we did horror movies, so if you're there, get spooked. If you weren't, too bad. Let's see, on the 31st, we have an APAC and FAC collaboration for karaoke night. Pull up, sing your guts out, it'll be awesome. I might be there, I might sing. I love ABBA. Next up, we also have on the 1st of November, another Try to Understand, and then Story Circle the next day on the 2nd. Story Circle is a monthly support space for you to discuss your identities and experiences within a predominantly white institution. This is a space that centers on those who identify as Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, Southwest Asian, Northern African, Middle Eastern, Southeast Asian, Desi, adopted, mixed race, and Asian American. You can still come and be in support though. It'll be an APAC from 12:15 p.m. to 1:45 p.m. And then the last event, as I've said every week, we have Breaking Through Burnout on the 9th of November. It's a self-care day for PDM small students. There'll be a rage room, painting, yoga, and more. So stay tuned.
Awesome. Are there any other senator associates on the Senator Cook?
I should turn that on after I move the mic. Hi, my name is Claire. I use she, they pronouns. And I am currently working on getting a grouping of questions together to send to the candidates for school board. That way, like, students can have their voice heard, because we have a massive voter pool and we can vote on school board, and if you don't know who you want to vote for, that's really difficult. So I'm trying to compile what some students would like to hear about, and I think it's also become a different project with the School of Education, where we are sending a survey out to educators and future educators, and that'll be combined into a single document. So if anybody has questions or would like to help with the student side of things, let me know. I yield.
Awesome. So now we will move on to confidence business for the parliamentarian for 2 hours on conference call. So we'll start with the ratification of additional SFRB members. So Vice President come up with those members.
Fantastic. Cool. So we have 2 new members that are being added to the Student Fee Review Board, hopefully upon ratification. Kyle Hill and Alexander Wilson, both senators within this space. Kyle has been here for 10 years, 5 years. And Alexander is new to the space, but is already writing flexes, which I've never gotten to. So props to you. But yeah, these are both fantastic individuals that bring very diverse and unique perspectives. They were at the meeting last week. And you were here this week, kind of was not. But anyone is welcome to attend the meetings, but they've already attended meetings, which is a fantastic start. They are really enjoying the meetings and learning a lot, and also asking really good questions. So if they'd like to introduce themselves and maybe just talk a little bit about why you want to be on the board.
Hello, how's everyone doing? My name is Kyle. I'm sure many of you already know me. I've been here for 5 years, 10 years, no, 5 years, 5 years. But yeah, it seems sometimes like 10 years. But I've been in many roles here in ASCSU, and a few roles in BSOF, less than a year as speaker, and it's my 4th year as a senator, my first year senator for grad school council, and all throughout my life, I've always throughout college, I've always been curious on where our student fees would go to. For example, I would, check it on the website and would be very curious on which student fee areas, such as like the rec center or the athletics department, the University Center of the Arts, examples such as that, how much student fees are allocated to those areas. And I would be curious as to like, hey, I think, this would be cool. I would have a bunch of thoughts in my head on how I want to facilitate and continue on help allocating fees. And so I've got interested and never really had the time in the past to join SFRB, but this year, believe it or not, I have a few hours during the times we meet to commit myself to SFRB. I wasn't there this past week because I had a very personal event happening, so I couldn't do that prior commitment. But yeah, I feel like communication and collaboration, as well as lifting up identities that I do not hold, is something that I want to do as I continue on, and this, hopefully, if I'm honored if you allow me to be in this role. I'm open to any questions. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm Alexander, and I feel like a lot more people know me in this space than I know. And I'm not sure if that's because I'm loud or what it is. But I just kind of wanted to give you all a bit of background on me without like telling you everything I'm involved in. Because although I feel like that brings a really cool perspective, it doesn't really tell you much about a person. So I grew up in foster care. I have 9 siblings. I have medical and legal custody of my little brother. I also love doing research in my free time. My college essay, I wrote 2 college essays, one about how my life was Alice in Wonderland, and the other about comparing the Stanford Prison Project to like wilderness therapy programs. And so research has just been a really cool part of my life. I've always loved doing it. We'll never get into STEM though, so don't ask me about that. But after doing a crap ton of research, I really started looking to where our student fees go, and I was not gonna lie, really upset. I was like, why is athletics getting more money than anyone will ever see in their entire lifetime? And so I had a lot of strong feelings about it, and I feel like I bring a very interesting perspective into the space. Because I do research before I go and meet with these individuals, I know where they said their money is going, and I'm going to hold them accountable to it. And I want to see how I can support them for future years to come, and things like that. And with my background, I also believe that I bring a really interesting perspective to the space, especially because I have grown up very stingy of money. And I like knowing where the last cent goes. I think it's really, really fun. I've definitely created some connections within SFRB. And I feel like that I ask really funny questions normally during meetings, but yeah.
I think I should have done this before, but I motioned to put these 2 on a slate. A small slate.
Okay, there's been a motion to put these 2 candidates on the slate. Second. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Yay.
Abstain? Let's say the ayes have it. I'm gonna say the ayes have it. Okay, so now we will move into question and answer with the first race placard. Also, it's in their AP.
How do you plan to uphold the university and ASCSU initiatives of diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Thank you for that, Senator. I think that diversity, equity, and inclusion is a huge part of what makes a community a community and at CSU. And I believe that one of the biggest values I can, bring is listening. Listening is a very key component, and first addressing what problems going on. If I have a group of people telling me, hey, I feel like something is wrong, or I don't feel included in this particular aspect, or want this to be, or I instead of, making it about me, I would first listen. My mom always told me, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should be doing twice as much listening as you do talking. So I take that really to heart when really listening to people with diverse backgrounds, and listening and being able to take some time and really bring that to heart and understand how can I best support you, and talk with other people and communicate. And that's how I want to do diversity, equity, and inclusion. Recognize that despite that, I do hold a few identities that are that others don't share, and others have identities that I don't share, and I want to recognize that, and at the same time, and bring that to the table and talk about commonality and common ground, how we can come together and build as a community so everyone is respectful and honest with one another. Does that answer your question?
I'd like to give a bit of background on myself before I answer this question. Again, I grew up in foster care. After that, I was sent to wilderness therapy program as conversion therapy.
After experiencing that, I went before the Supreme Court of the United States alongside quite a few people to speak out against conversion therapy programs that are still active in the US. Following that, during the year of COVID, a few guys, I'm sure a few of you are aware, Texas passed quite a few laws against queer students and queer youth in the state. And I worked at a queer safe space and I ran the youth programming there, and I ensured the space was accessible, and I also ensured during a lot of the Black Lives Matter protests that we were also a safe space, and we provided a lot of healing energy as well as a lot of help sources for people that were injured during the protests. Coming to CSU, I knew that I still wanted to be thoroughly involved in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I did not, my first year, I was struggling a lot, so I really didn't do much with diversity, equity, and inclusion. I did a lot of healing within myself. However, this past year, I have been way more involved within ASCSU and upholding the accessibility guidelines. I also have been an academic coach for the Student Disability Center and a peer facilitator for freshmen. My peer facilitation role taught me a lot. My students taught me a lot more than I had ever learned in any of my other classes. They brought me their own perspective on how I was teaching them, how I could better educate them. And I think a very big important thing to recognize when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion is recognizing your own identities and your own values and how they intertwine and how they can present themselves to other people, and ensuring that you don't uphold yourself to the role of an educator, but uphold yourself to a role of like a facilitator where you're both learning at the same time.
Thank you. How are you going to recognize your inherent biases?
Thank you. Sorry, can you hear me? Oh, sorry. I think that first of all, recognizing that everyone has, as a human, everyone has bias, and recognizing that before whatever I say or do or how I speak, I think, okay, how is this going to affect somebody in a negative way? And watch exactly, I've learned, you know, and I'm not gonna lie, in the past, I've struggled, but I think that over time I've learned through trial and error many times that things you say can hurt other people, and to recognize that, you know, that what you say, other people may not really be able to really, you know, other people, it can be offensive, and what you do can also have an impact. So realizing that it's not all about you, it's about, you know, you got to also think about and listen and consider other people's perspectives as well, and work to collaborate and communicate on what everyone on such matters. And that is something that I continue to do, want to wish to continue to do, or to do in this role.
One thing I think that's important about biases is recognizing your own identities again. One of my main values is inclusivity. And I think biases are really important to acknowledge, but also not to de-acknowledge your own identities. So personally, how I go about it is I, again, love to research. So I will talk to people about very controversial things very casually. And I learned a lot from those conversations. And I feel like it's brought me to a lot of really cool, can't come up with the word, but perspectives, I guess. That's not the word I'm looking for, but we're gonna go with it. And I think it's really important to recognize your own biases and allow yourself to be called out, and truly listen to the people you impacted rather than trying to make an excuse.
How do you plan to balance ASCSU school and outside work if that's possible?
Thank you. Sorry, can you hear me? I think as I'm going to be honest here, I am a grad student, and I understand that grad school is very busy. But with that, I also know that being a grad student, you should have, in general, you should have practice or knowing how to balance work and life. And I think that over time, as a college student, since I was here for 4 years, I've looked at my schedule and say, okay, this is what I can devote my time to and what I can't devote my time to. And really just putting it all together in a planner. I'm very a visual person, and I think using a planner to compartmentalize and set a time to do one aspect and to do time for this role as SFRB, and make sure that I have time for school, especially grad school, since it's going to be, since it is hard, but I made sure that I had my schedule during this time of SFRB clear before committing myself to this role, because I wanted to make sure that I can do this role the best of my ability. So I would make sure that, I think that creating a planner and looking every day and what you're going to do is something I'm one big aspect on how I will balance work and school life.
Yeah, so I'm not sure everyone's aware, but I apparently have a death wish with how much I'm involved in. But I think an important thing for me that's kept me sane is I refuse to work on Sundays. I'm a very religious person, and I go to church on Sundays, and I take the time to myself, and I go to a park and I meditate. And it's really proven to really help my mental health. I do know that I am double booked at times, and I do my best to communicate with people. With SFRB and Accessibility Caucus, I'm still working out the kinks with that right now. And I'm going to start conversations with Alex and Sammy, trying to figure out that. A huge thing that I was wanting to do was ensuring that I would be active in both roles, because I feel like both roles are inherently important, especially for what I want to accomplish during my time at ASCSU. And so, yeah.
Thank you. Move on to chair Trump.
So I have a quick point of information for either Speaker Pro Tempore or the parliamentarian. Since we're on a Slack, is it okay to ask individual members questions, or is it just?
You can ask individuals.
You cannot ask individuals questions if they're on the slate.
I mean, I could, but to ask one question. Anyway, I have another point of information as time for Vice President Silverheart. This was last year's bylaws, so I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. I don't know how much the bylaws were updated last year, but in the SFRB bylaws, it states that an ASCSU Senate representation shall not exceed 50% of the SFRB membership. I just kind of want to know a little bit more information on, have we exceeded that? Are we still at a solid 50-50? If that rule's changed?
I'm pretty sure we are still very below that. I know, I guess I can count in the room, Kevin, Lauren, you two, Claire. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 2 people from exec, so that's 7. And I think we're close to 23 or 24. So we still have space for ASCSU representation, which is fantastic. But yeah, we haven't quite met that. But thank you for asking. That was a fantastic question that I didn't even think about.
Yeah. It's something that we realized at the very end of SFRB, and I was like, wait a minute, we're kind of freaking anyway, so it was a whole thing. Okay, so on to my other questions. Since SFRB, it's a unique role within ASCSU because that is a.
Sammy, I am sorry to cut you off, but we are out of time for question and answer.
Second.
All those in favor of exhausting the speakers list, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it.
Okay, super slay. I need to restart my question really quickly. SFRB has a really unique power in the sense of, unlike other responsibilities which are delegated more from ASCSU Constitution and CSU policy, SFRB, we get that power from state law. State law says that students have to have engagement within student fees. How does that knowledge help you approach what you're reviewing on and saying that you have a legal responsibility to conduct effective oversight over these fee areas?
Thank you. Sorry, this microphone. Can you hear me okay? Thank you, Senator or Associate Senator. My apologies for Chair. Thank you, Chair. Sorry. Thank you, Chair, for that question. I think that does put a sense of high responsibility on me, and knowing that you know, that I really am gonna have to take a lot of time and make sure I thoroughly review to the T of what I'm looking at with each student fees before on and determining how I'm gonna vote. As you know, I'm here with everyone, hopefully with the intention of serving students, and that's the only reason why I'm here. And no, and I want to come in from a more of an outside perspective as someone who, you know, who's in a STEM field, and where a lot of us do not get really a big say on student fees because, you know, a lot of people, and because one thing, a lot of STEM people are very focused on their work and what they're doing, and they're not realizing how impactful student fees are, and understanding that how I want to address the student fees and looking and realizing that, hey, this is a legal responsibility is something that I really want to make sure I take hours each day looking and committing myself to, and really collaborating and talking with others. This is not a one person's decision. Really, there's like a whole board for this for a reason, and that is something that I want to really that I am really considering. Does that answer your question, Chair?
So one thing I'm sure everyone in this space can agree upon about me is that I'm not quiet, and I have my own opinions. And a lot of time, it's really hard to tell me to not say my opinions. And I feel like I've done that within SFRB really well. I share my opinions, I share my thoughts, and I share my research that I've come up with on behalf of the organization we're reviewing. And I feel like it's been very beneficial. I feel like it has been really, really nice. I just blanked on the question. Can you repeat it really, really quick?
Yeah, essentially because this is more of a legal oversight thing rather than just an ASCSU oversight thing.
Yeah, okay, I remember now. So I have been involved with a lot of legalities in the past. So again, when I did work for the Montrose Center in Houston, I was the head of the steering committee, so we did a lot of budgeting. And I was always really lost, but I knew how much, like I didn't know like the cent of how much everyone should have, but I knew like, oh, obviously programming should have the most. That's where we have the most like people doing things, and they have the most staff. And so things like that made sense. And coming into SFRB, Alex kind of informed me a lot about how it works before, and it was really informational and really helpful for me coming into the space, not really having an economic background. And I feel like I bring a different point of view because I don't have an economic background. I don't play the numbers game really well, but I do play the thought game really well. And I think that's really important to be brought up during SFRB meetings.
Just because we're exhausted speakers. Is anyone else on the speakers list? Okay, so to respect folks' times, I'm going to yield back.
Thank you. Next we have Chair Kelly.
I yield to redundancy.
Last we have Associate Camberg.
Online.
I would like to move to previous question.
I would just go with the yielding your times the same difference because there's no one on the speakers list after you.
Oh, okay. Well, then I yield to redundancy.
With that, we will move into a period of discussion and debate. And I'll ask you both to step outside, please. Alrighty, we'll start discussion and begin with the first Ms. Packard, Associate Camberg.
Y'all, we know these people, they're in the space, they've already taken an oath, they already have demonstrated their ability to be student leaders. I would rather than just say, yes, I think they should absolutely be a part of SFRB, but I would say that if, in the interest of everyone's time, if there's any reason why they shouldn't be, we have that discussion and then move forward in ratifying them. That is all. I yield.
Thank you. Next, we have Chair Trump.
Good evening, y'all. I've worked really closely with these individuals over the last couple of years and months, respectfully. I think they can both excel within this job. I am a little hesitant on Senator Wilson primarily because I have seen their schedule and that's honestly a little crazy. And the fact that there is that time conflict between SFRB and Accessibility Caucus. And it would be silly of me not to acknowledge that out front. I am going to abstain from the vote simply because of that. I always encourage folks, if you are going to be taking leadership positions within specific things, to prioritize those leadership positions rather than to take on more than you can chew. I did that a lot last year and it knocked me on my ass. So I encourage folks to, space yourselves out respectfully of what the spoons you have and thinking, oh, I have spoons for this. I promise you, if you take on too much things, you will not have enough spoons for everything. So that's a concern that I do have, but overall, I think both these candidates would do well on SFRB, but for those reasons specifically, I will be abstaining. So with that, I go back.
Thank you. Senator Huizinga.
I have a similar concern about the time commitment with Senator Wilson. I don't think, from my, opinion, I guess, I think that Chair Trump probably knows Senator Wilson the best, maybe, out of all this. And he probably knows, I guess. So with that expertise, just a concern. I yield.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak at this time? Seeing.
Oh.
Ooh. Senator Johnson, McAllister.
This is just a point of information, so I guess I didn't need to raise my placard. What would it look like if we were like, no, but then we wanted like based off of just like scheduling conflict? Like if we said no to both, but then could we, do you understand what I'm getting at?
A little bit, but we have a little
But
more.
okay, like, and then we get, so if we say no, it's no to both, but could we get back like one?
All right, so before I was here, I was told by the Speaker Pro Tem 4 that y'all put these two on a slate. Correct. Which means you'll be voting on both of them together.
Could I also provide a little point of something?
Y'all are fine. I will vote either Senator AP or President Silverheart.
Okay, I was just gonna say, because I'm also literally looking at it. If you decide that you want to vote no on one candidate and not the other, you can move to remove one of them from the slate. Well, I guess it technically breaks up the slate because we want to keep them, but that's, you're moving to remove them. And then with a majority vote, then you'd be voting on them separately.
Can I ask for a point of clarification?
Yeah.
Does SFRB have I don't know, just it's not in front of me. I don't know my laptop in front of me. Do the bylaws have anything in it about attendance or requirements for participation or what that looks like? Does SFRB have within it methods or codification of if someone is unable to fulfill their duties? That's all.
I'm not sure off the top of my head. I do know there's just some points of information I can provide. The limit to voting members is 30 and we haven't yet met that. And I don't know if I anticipate us meeting that. And so in terms of like this role being like highly utilized, it's a lot more utilized than it has been in years prior. But at the same time, there's still spaces. So it's not like they're taking space from another student that could be using this space. And it's also my like job and duty to make sure that people are upholding their responsibilities as a member. So there are like a list of things that they have to uphold as an SFRB member. I don't think there's necessarily specifics into attendance. But I definitely plan on approaching people, and there's a few people already where their attendance hasn't been fantastic. And so I plan on approaching them with this information and having conversations before it gets to a point where you would have to bring them here and potentially remove them from the board.
Yes, Associate Senator Camber, the BSOF bylaws do in fact make mention of absences each. And I am looking at the wrong bylaws.
We haven't passed SFRB bylaws, have we?
No,
Those
so-
have not been hit before.
No, so we're just working out the ones from last year.
Gotcha.
Point of order. Did we, whoever over there asked that first question, did we answer your question? Yeah, you answered it a while ago, but I was just letting you run. Thank you. Yeah, sorry, should have stopped you.
You're good. I think another, well, Associate
Okay,
Member had another question.
now I have found the correct bylaws for SFRB, which is what this is for. After 2 unexcused absences, they will receive a warning from the chair, which is Vice President Silverheart. After 3 within a semester, that will constitute an automatic resignation. So does that answer your question?
Yes, that answers my question and also satisfies any doubt that I might have about scheduling and ability.
Next to Senator Davis, or is the chair, have we not done the proper?
I'm not chair.
Okay,
That's Olivia.
right.
This, I guess, is a kind of information, but those 2 or 3 absences, are those unexcused absences or total absences?
Unexcused, and so it's up to the chair's discretion to determine whether or not those are excused. Usually with like, if you give like prior notice, in those situations, it's normally.
Okay, because if it's like a scheduling thing, then maybe that would be excused, but I guess if it's up to the chair's discretion. Yeah, I know.
Can I do a quick point of clarification? This was an issue that a lot of folks had last year. And I know during the fall semester, it's primarily just going to presentations and those sorts of things. And I know that's super important. I do know that a lot of the work at SFRB is more in the spring semester. So that workload looks different. Where like spring, you're looking in depth into the budgets and voting on those budgets, where during the fall, you're going to the offices and getting presentations, which can be really important insight on the things, but you get a decent loop in on those things during the spring presentations. Just so folks, if no one knows how SFRB operates and how the scheduling looks like, that is scheduling differences between the two. So it's not the same type of stuff that they'd be doing next semester or even this semester. Just so folks have a little bit more of an idea of what they're doing this semester versus what they're doing next semester. If that helps anyone with kind of figuring out what their thoughts are on this.
No, but I also have a point of information. It's a question though. It's actually 2 technically. When is SFRB again?
Mondays from 4 to 6.
When is the accessibility process?
Mondays 4 to 5.
Okay, and then my last point of information is Senator Wilson your vice chair?
Yes, they're my vice chair. So they assist me in the administration of it, chairing if I'm not there, which knowing how silly and goofy I am, who knows how that happens, and also helping me take minutes as well as other administrative duties.
Okay, so they're at the same time. Cool, thank you.
Point of clarification, so we're saying that Senator Wilson will be supposed to be at 2 places at once to be on this board?
Essentially.
Chair Kelly.
That was a new development, so. Is there anyone else on the speakers list?
Yes. Great. Chair Taylor.
I know that we've had a little bit of discussion about this, about taking them out of the slate. I wanted to kind of get the feel of the body on that, how we feel about that, because I feel like we've been having 2 kind of separate discussions about each of the candidates, and so I'd like to see how we would feel about splitting those into 2 discussions and having them one at a time.
I think the best form of doing that would be just motioning.
I motion to take these candidates out of the slate.
Yeah.
Seconded.
All right.
Second.
All in favor of taking the candidates off the slate, please say aye.
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 Any abstentions?
That was a loud eye.
So the ayes have it. All right. Do we want to start with Senator Hill or would we like to start with Senator Wilson? You're so right, but yes, anyway.
I vote we start with Senator Hill because I've heard no discussion on this. I think that was easy.
Yeah, I'm just gonna discussion of one candidate, vote of that candidate, discussion of the
Yeah, we have 1 minute left.
Ah.
Ask if anybody else wants to take it. If anybody else, I'm talking just to Anna, sorry, these are my side should. You asked if anybody else has any discussion before you even bother deciding if we need to discuss more, because a minute could just be over.
Does anyone else like to speak during discussion debate? Great. All right, I'm gonna ask that everyone who feels that they want to speak raise their flags now, because the minute that the clock runs out, I cannot add any more people onto the speakers list. Please raise your flags or forever hold your peace.
You have 9
Point of
seconds.
clarification, this is just for Senator Hill, right?
This is discussion debate in total.
But now it's split.
Well, now it's over.
Okay, I'm going to extend discussion and debate by 20 minutes. Hopefully, we won't need that time.
Madeline's raising her hand.
Yes, we can.
We can extend the conference clock, but we can extend speaking time. All in favor of extending discussion debate by 20 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Ooh, division. All right, we're gonna raise your placards this time. All in favor of extending discussion debate, please raise your placards.
Can we do it by 10?
Sure.
Instead of 20, please? 7?
Oh.
We're not gonna speak up all the time.
Yes, this is yes, if you would like to extend discussion debate.
Yes, 1.
You can put your placards down. All opposed, please raise your placards.
Oh, it just sounded really loud. 6, 7. No.
Nope.
You can put down. You can put down your placards. All abstentions, please raise your placards. Great, put down your placards. With a vote of 11 to 7 to 4, we are extending discussion. Is it 2/3? I thought it was majority. Let me.
2/3. I just
Let me
went
do
to the
some math.
bylaws.
That is not 2/3.
7 divided by 11.
Point of order to exhaust the speaker's list or extend time by minutes. It is a 2/3 vote threshold.
Just shy.
You are shy of like 1 vote. You had 61%. So the discussion debate is not extended. With that, our last person on the speakers list is Chair Taylor. You're so right. I forgot about that one.
You're doing great.
Moving on, we'll start with a vote. We'll start with the voting period. We will start with Senator Hill. I'm just gonna go by, for this one, I'm gonna go by voice.
Point of clarification, for our bylaws, since they're not a slate, it has to be a secret ballot.
Wait, over here. Does it have to be?
I feel like this came up last year. as well.
Yep.
I motion to approve Senator Hill with unanimous consent. Any dissent? to that motion? Seeing none, Senator Hill is approved with unanimous consent.
All right. Do I bring him back in?
No.
Okay.
We're gonna- Associate Camber.
I would like to move to table
the voting, the ratification of Senator Wilson to give them time to either make a decision or reprioritize or rearrange their schedule. I think we should table this till next week. I'm making that motion.
Is that proper verbiage or would you rather postpone? There it is.
Postpone.
All in favor of postponing the vote for Senator Wilson joining or being ratified for SFRB? Who would like to entertain that vote? So we're gonna vote for the vote.
All again next.
Run it back. Hope that kind of made any more sense.
I move to postpone, thank you. I was like, I have the word in my head, I promise. Postpone the vote of Senator Wilson for SFRB until next week.
So we are voting on postponing the vote. That is what this vote is about. I am gonna go by placard. All who are in favor of postponing the vote, please raise your placards.
I think.
Should have gone by voice.
Did you tell them that we're still talking?
You can put your placards down. All who wish not to postpone the vote, please raise your placards. Any abstentions?
That was worth 2 votes, right?
Did Canberra, what was Canberra?
They're in favor of postponing.
It was their motion.
It also, well, they just suggested. That's the second.
Alrighty, with a vote of 20-3-0, this vote is postponed. Oh, did you raise your placard for abstention? It makes it higher. So a vote from 20-3-1, this vote is postponed till next week.
I hate to do this to you, but wasn't that the vote to vote?
Oh, you're so right. Alrighty, now we're voting on postponing. So we are voting on if you were going to postpone.
Decided we were gonna
And-
postpone. Yeah, so now we're voting if you wanted to postpone.
I hate these types
I
of
know.
votes.
It's
Alrighty,
it's so
now,
meta.
all
It's a
in
meta
favor of postponing this vote till next week, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Any abstentions?
vote. The 2 lone horses.
Alrighty, that's an aye. This vote is postponed till next week. But Senator Hill is ratified as an SFRB member. I don't want to say this. I can't just say congratulations.
Let's tell them what happened. That's what
Hey y'all, I'm gonna give a little clarification on the situation that just happened in here. Senator Wilson, your vote has been postponed until next week due to your scheduling conflicts with SFRB. People want to see if there's a way that you can kind of, what is the word I'm looking for?
Get the dynamics.
Yeah, align, and so you will have your vote next week, and as well as another period of discussion and questions. Senator Hill, you have been ratified. Congratulations. Someone from the court, please come down. I do not see Chief Justice.
Yeah.
I want to move over a bit, so I think
I state your name,
I, Kyle Hill,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
to defend and uphold
to defend and uphold
the rules and
the
regulations
rules and regulations
set forth by the Constitution
set forth by the Constitution
of the Associated Students of Colorado State University,
of the Associated Students of Colorado State University,
and will rightfully perform the duties of my office
and will rightfully perform the duties of my office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
With that, we move into confidence business. No, we're already in confidence business. Old business. And we will be revisiting Bill 5308. Get the good 9.
Oh.
Point of information, it is 5309, changing Bill 5308.
Okay. Anyway, I'm moving to step down because this is my bill.
Okay, so can I have wait, can we read the abstract first?
This bill aims to rectify the errors made in the original job description bill.
Thank you. So now we will present committee edits. Were there any edits to this bill from committee? Chairman Rocky.
We had it previously in front of the past for clarification purposes.
Are there any other committee edits for any committees want to present? Okay, seeing none, we can go into, do you accept the changes? I'm forgetting that, I'm sorry.
Yes, I do accept the changes.
Good, so now, do you want to do discussion? Yeah, let's do discussion and debate on this bill. So we'll start with the first phrase placard. Chair Taylor.
Seems like a good bill. I know we've had some time to take a look at it again, so I move to approve this question.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? All right. Okay, so now we will go into voting for this bill. We'll just do.
I motion to approve this bill with unanimous consent.
Second.
There is no second, it's just consent.
Is there any dissent to this bill? Hearing none, this bill is passed.
I hope I don't have to present this bill one more time. Moving on to new business, we have the accessibility Lex 5301.
Can I stay here?
Is everyone?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do I start?
Yes.
Okay. So this bill is essentially this Lex is essentially going over the accessibility of all ASCSU events. Majority of the accommodations listed are already in the ADA and are federally required. It is just kind of stating them again for your convenience. I think it's a really important bill. If you scroll down a bit, it like kind of lists the statement that's going to be added. And so, yeah, I'm totally open to any questions and answers. I do want to preface by saying that a lot of these accommodations may seem different for a lot of people and totally valid. I will not be telling you what disabilities use these accommodations to as not to out those disabilities and people who use those accommodations. If you have further questions regarding these accommodations and what disabilities use them, I'd be happy to meet with you one-on-one, but I do not want that live streamed. Anyways, I yield my time. I'm ready.
We'll start with Q&A with the first choice placard. We'll start with Chair Trout.
Well, are these accommodations that the student disability center I'm trying to figure out a way to word this without like making a problematic question. But basically, are these accommodations that are pretty frequent for folks who request accommodations on campus?
Yeah, actually they are. So A is, I'm just gonna kind of like tell you guys what is ADA compliant, that are written in ADA. So A is written into the ADA, D is written into the ADA, F is written into the ADA, H is written into the ADA,
Personal privilege, since the bill uses numbers.
oh, my bad, guys. Sammy put this into y'all's format and it's confusing for me. Okay, so 1 is in the ADA. 4 is in the ADA. Scroll down. 6 is in the ADA. 8 is in the ADA. 9 is in the ADA. And then 10 is also just the standard practice for most accommodations within the school. The other accommodations are ones that I have spoken to a lot of students within ASCSU and outside ASCSU that they wanted to see within the bill. The Lex, I will just keep calling it a bill, and I am so sorry. And I had spoken to a lot of pro staff within the SDC, and they all said that they were very reasonable accommodations. And if you look more into them, it requires ASCSU no money. So that's a really cool thing. But yeah.
Super slate, and I can already anticipate this question coming up for number 6, access to any standard interpreter. Where can ASCC folks get interpreters from?
Yeah, so the SDC has a few interpreters, as well as the Interpreters of Colorado. They are a group that works with CSU very closely, and they offer free interpreters for CSU students for numerous languages. And I'd say majority of the prominent languages on campus.
Awesome, that's all I have. Thank you. Hi,
Thank you. Next we have Senator Davis.
I have a few questions. The first one, what's like the difference between a Lex and a bill?
So a Lex specifically changes our government documents. So as we've seen, like the bylaws is only governed by in the Constitution. So this essentially makes a change to the Constitution that we have in ASCSU, which I don't know when it was updated, probably last year, I think. You can probably find it on the website, but the difference between those as well is the voting majority. It needs to be passed by a 2/3 majority vote in order to pass.
Point of information, there's also after this reading, we will send it to committee where we'll then come back here for a second reading and then go to another set of committees. And then we'll come back here to be finally voted on. So it adds an additional step in that process.
Got it. Okay. And then, so you said that most of these are like in the AEA, but not all of them, yeah? So I guess I have a question about number 7. What defines free and accessible? Like, does a water fountain count, or do they have to have like actual things of water, like cups and stuff?
Yeah, great question. So a water fountain does count. ASCSU already at the tailgates have jugs of water with red solo cups that they already utilize for said events. And it would cost very, very minuscule money to get a few more red solo cups for every event. And water fountains do count. So if we were to hold an event at the theater, that's a great, easy event to hold because then you don't need to bring water.
Awesome. And then I guess I haven't had a chance to go through this whole thing, but do any of these like numbers contradict like another one? Like, do they happen to? No. Okay. And then sorry, number 8, who defines what a reasonable accommodation is? Is that the SDC or is that the ADA?
The SDC does, because they are a funded, it's like really complicated. I can tell you more about it. Sammy, if you want to talk more about it, that would be great.
Yeah, so essentially through federal statutes like American Disabilities Act, Rehabilitation Act, etc. Essentially, the SDC is the folks that review all that and say, okay, based off of these credentials, we can make accommodations for X, Y, Z. So they're the folks that make and provide those accommodations based off of the guidelines of those federal and, for our case, we're also state funded federal and state statutes, if that clarifies it a little more for you.
Yeah. And then when you are making those accommodations, is there a time period like beforehand that people have to come to get that, or?
Yeah, so I would highly recommend it be 48 hours in advance. I will already, all of our events are mentioned about 48 hours in advance, if not like multiple weeks in advance normally. And that provides already ample time to receive accommodations, but I would say like a minimum of 48 hours in advance, which is like already written into our guidelines.
Point of information, the SDC, because it is backed up right now, at least the protocol within classrooms, and maybe ASCSU can kind of model this as well, is that while students are waiting to hear back if their accommodations are reasonable, it is asked of professors that they, with the confirmation that there's an appointment set, meet those accommodations until further, until they hear back from the SDC. So in the meantime, while SDC is backed up, the protocol at the university level is to make the accommodations until SDC can further, review.
Can I add just an additional point of clarification on to that? There's a lot of points of clarifications to make, y'all. Since this is written, anytime that there's an event, these have to be required at the forefront. So it's not like a waiting time. Oh, I want accommodation 9, for example, right? That is an accommodation that every event has to uphold whenever they're in their planning process. These things have to be considered at the forefront. If you're considering SDC accommodations outside of ASCSU, that's when there's that waiting period and whatnot with the SDC. But if you're talking specifically about ASCSU events, if this gets put into the Constitution, then it is automatic that these have to be like from the get-go provided. I hope that clarifies it just a little bit more as well.
Next name, Senator Kirk. Sorry, that was me whispering. I did raise my Packard, but I think it's because I thought we were in discussion debate already, which we're not in. So I'm going to yield my time. Okay, next is Senator Pickle.
Hi, there's definitely a little ignorance about the ADA on my part. Are these accommodations are the stuff that's listed in here, those taken from the ADA and sorry.
You're so fine. So the ones I listed that I said were part of the ADA are literally already written in the ADA. And because ASCSU is part of a federally funded institution, we are by law, federal law, have to uphold those accommodations, and they haven't been held within at all ever. And so that's something that's important to me, that it's written in our Constitution, so there is no more discussion, debate whether or not we have to follow federal law.
That makes sense. So we would be under Title II, I assume, technically.
Yes, I believe I wrote that in the whereas clause.
Okay, sorry. And then it's just another question about the
Title III, sorry.
No, sorry, I just misread it. In regards to the water, if we're doing tabling and we have candy out there, is the water fountains inside sufficient for that, or? I apologize.
So I personally would say no, simply because it is a walk to get the water. And a huge reason, a great way I like to view accessibility is that accessibility is for all students, not just disabled students. I feel like we get a lot more people at our tables in general if we have water. So I feel like that's not just benefiting disabled students, it's also benefiting ASCSU by getting more people to come to their table events.
Thank you.
Next one, Senator Hazenga.
Could we possibly add a specific, there has to be water within a specific amount of feet, just so it's very clear that water is accessible?
That change can be made in committees. Usually floor changes are more reserved for second and third reading after they've gone through the committee process, but they're still being added on to. Typically during the first reading, we don't have it on, but something to note, if and when you do go to committees, that is something that you can make a note of during then.
Thank you. Next, we have Chair Kelly. Next, we have Chair Taylor.
Who would be deciding what is accessible under this definition with the points within this?
Could you clarify that question? I feel like that's a very broad question. What do you mean points within this?
looking at the like points 1 to 10 that you have, like who decides if the events that we hold, I guess follow those points and be accessible.
It would be very similar to how our accessibility guidelines are within the space. It would be on all of us to ensure that the events are accessible and following these guidelines.
And so what happens then if an event is not accessible?
An ADA audit would be performed.
And then
Similar to how the guidelines up here are. If like an ASCSU official meeting is not accessible, the student body has a complete right to file an ADA audit because it is protected by the ADA.
I know my time.
Also, point of information, our judicial branch made it very clear that you could also go to our Supreme Court if we're not following these guidelines.
That was the end of the speakers list. So I'm just gonna move us to discussion and debate with the first race topic.
No.
Is there anyone else?
Executive committee.
You're so right.
I motion to send it to all committees.
We can't do that
Okay.
because it has 3 readings, so it can't repeat in the same committees.
It'll go to all of them.
It'll end up in most, if not all of them, but we can't send it to all of them to the first reading. So I'm gonna send it to first, we'll go DEI internal. I'll send this to those 2 first. Great. With that, I think we move into ending roll call. We'll go Chairman Alti.
Motion to use beginning roll call as ending roll call and adding anyone who arrived late into the roll call.
Second. Is there any dissent to that motion?
Madam Speaker, I dissent.
Robert.
Motion to make it a vote by voice.
We'll just do a voice vote. All those in favor of using beginning roll calls and ending roll call, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Any abstentions?
Abstain.
I'm gonna say the ayes have it. I'm gonna also kind of clarify, I feel like why Senator Hill would make that dissent as well. In case I got it wrong at any time. In your job descriptions, it says, well, it's different because we can't extend the confidence pack anymore. But I know last year, if we were to go an extra like minute over our 2 hours, or our allotted time period, you would be able to get an extra hour of your office hours, which you have to complete, which is 5 or 3. And so all the people who left early still get that extra hour when you sat here this entire time. I know that was something big last year after all the office hours and strikes and violations. But with that, we're going to be using beginning roll calls, ending roll call, and anyone who came late, please talk to the clerk. We'll move it to the reports. We'll start with internal affairs.
Come to committee.
Budgetary affairs. From the committee, I'm gonna ask you all to yield to redundancy if the next 2 have to say the same thing.
I was also going to say,
Yeah.
currently, we still have around $90,000 in our budget. Write a bill, y'all. Write a bill. Reach out to me if you want to write a bill too, and I'll help you out as much as I can in my position. I also want to say that with today's current global climate, there's a lot going on and it is directly affecting our student body. If you or anyone you know in this space is being affected by what is going on in our global climate, whether that be directly or indirectly, whether that be your family is undergoing it, whether that be that you personally are undergoing it, please seek help because it is a lot of weight to carry. It is very, very difficult to continue going through our days when we know what is going on in the world, when we see what is going on in the world, and when we feel we do not have support. I promise you have support. Please take use of the 5 free counseling sessions that we have through the CSU network paid by our student fees, and please direct anyone who is in need of support to avenues who can support them, like our counseling center, like our WCAC, like our SDPS officers, because it's a lot of weight for our students and our faculty and our family members to be carried. Thank you, Ayu.
Thank you. Next, we move to university.
Yield to redundancy.
Last year, DEI.
Well, now I got them through redundancy.
Thank you. We'll move to caucus reports. I don't think chairperson, the chairperson on that, or under Davis.
Am I allowed to like speak on?
Are you the vice chair? I don't know.
Make my report. And she did, like, ask me
Go ahead.
it's very similar, like you'll, I don't quite yield to redundancy because we have a couple like things that are in motion. We need more voices, so like come because we're doing things.
Thank you. Last year, Chair Charles.
Super slay, and I'm not gonna go to the other than because I think it's talked about as usual. Again, I will be meeting with folks very briefly in the conference room. That's just where I'm just gonna send folks for the beginning of our goings, and then, well, I'm just kidding. We're gonna be at the CSU Health Center because I don't want to meet here and walk all the way over there. That sounds awful. Because this is the weekend that moves straight into Halloween, y'all pretty please be safe. I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but this weekend, Grand Ride issues outlift codes between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. They're $15 uplift codes, so that can get you really anywhere within City of Fort Collins. So if you are out and about and can't get home in any capacity, please use those codes. I promise you, we have enough. We always stockpile primarily for Halloween weekend because Halloween weekend is always crazy. So please be safe, be smart, and be aware of your surroundings this weekend. Have fun and have a safe, spooky weekend.
Thank you. And with that, we adjourn. I'll see you next week.